Episode of That's Football here on January 17th. Marvin Luther King Jr. Day passed by, and trust me, something that we need today is togetherness.
Hey, look, you know what? We always need a little unity, a little togetherness in the world, but definitely want to say, of course, happy belated MLK Day. We've got a lot of football news to cover, big, eventful football weekend to cover, as well as some XFL, USFL news as well, and then also previewing the divisional round ahead, man. We don't got too much NFL football left for us, but the matchups have definitely played themselves out pretty well so far. So I guess we just jump right on into weekend recap, and I guess starting with last night, man, the Cowboys came and showed out a little bit in Tampa Bay, man. 31-14 win for Dallas. I'm just gonna start here. Did we see the Cowboys end Tom Brady's career? That's not a sentence I would have thought to put together, even a year or two ago. But I think we might have witnessed the end last night.
It's possible, though. Brian Leftwich's offensive coordinator duties were done as of last night.
He's been that offensive game plan has been bad pretty much all year. So, yeah, I'd be looking for somebody else in that OC spot as well. Todd Bowles really didn't do himself many favors as a head coach this year, but the Cowboys, man, I got to give them credit. I thought this was a typical, we going to get ourselves prepared for a Cowboys win. They're going to come out, look good, and then sure enough, Tom Brady was going to snatch the victory from him. But nope, Cowboys defense had a little bit different plans, man.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, it started looked like it was just going to be a defensive game at first because it was like 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out.
Back to back.
Yeah, and I'll say this, though, they're glad that the Cowboys have a good offensive line right now because
oh man, yeah. I mean that now it was a little bit surprising to me. I guess I shouldn't be so surprised based on how this went in the regular season, but I feel like it was also like the official end of like Zeke is the number one running back for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Not that Tony Pollard hasn't already kind of been on his territory a little bit this year, but I felt like when they really needed to make a play, Pollard was the go-to guy as opposed to Zeke being like, okay, 3rd and 4, we need to get it. This is the guy we're going to hand the rock to. They really found a way to put the ball in his hands, and then, of course, using the tight ends last night also.
Yeah, and, of course, one thing, is that they did that signing with T.J. Hilton over Odom Beckham Jr. was very smart.
Well, yeah, Hilton has looked. He's looked fresh. Typically the thing that you have to worry about with Ty is the injuries. But so far he's looked fresh. He's looked healthy, and he's been kind of the weapon that they've been missing so far on that offense. And so, good to see him, being able to go out there and make plays, but also, definitely a big boon for the Cowboys and keeping their playoff hopes alive. So, the one thing that I thought was going to come back to bite them that turned out not to come back to bite them, kicker Brett Maher. I'm surprised his key fob still work at the team facility. Because I'm sure they was about this close. If they'd have lost that game last night and he missed 4 extra points.
Yeah, so if people didn't see Twitter, I took my hat off because I was amazed by this. And one of our previous guests we have here, Ashley Baker, if you've seen her Twitter timelines, oh, dear God.
I follow a lot of Cowboys fans, her included. That was almost more entertaining than the game, seeing their response to not only like the first missed extra point, but then when you got to number 4, it's like, okay, like, can we just go ahead and save the draft or the tweet of him being released because it's coming.
And was that Jerry Jones tweet real or fake?
No. The Jerry Jones tweet that I saw initially on Facebook, but people kind of saw it floating around all the social medias. That if anybody wants to be the next Cowboys kicker, come down to the stadium because they got a jersey waiting on you. And I wouldn't have even been mad that Jerry decided to go that route because at this point, my man, you've gone out here 4 times and you've missed all of these. You got one job, literally. One job.
Yeah, And here's the thing, too, because we'll pivot a little bit out of NFL here, because in Arlington right now, there are 8 teams, 8 kickers that they could try out if they wanted to.
Correct. This is very correct.
And they would like to take a chance. Of course, the hometown one, Arlington, Taylor Russolino, who had kicked for the Denver Broncos before, he could probably make those extra points a lot more easier. And I don't know, like, it doesn't look like they're going to get another kicker. I wouldn't be surprised if they did not. But
well, so according to Mike McCarthy last night, they're not going to look to replace Mr. Meyer, or, anything like that.
Did they ask Coach Fossil, the special teams coach, about this?
Now, they did not, to my knowledge, ask Coach Fossil, but if the head guy says that his job is safe, I'm going to assume that his job is safe. But that's... I thought it was going to come back to bite him. I thought, sure enough, okay, you missed these extra points, and that's going to be the difference between a Cowboys win and a Tampa Bay comeback. Fortunately for them, that was not the case. But I think they're going to think a little bit long and hard about how many opportunities he gets next week, considering they got a much tougher opponent on their hands against San Francisco. So, big Cowboys win. We saw, of course, Tom Brady, like I mentioned, 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, and what I think might just be his last game. It sounded like, from what I saw clips of in the post-game press conference, he's talking like a dude that's about to go home.
Well, let's think about this for a moment. He originally was supposed to retire before this season, was actually supposed to be part of the Miami Dolphins get like an ownership, but then let's take a look what happened ever since he went back. Going to get a divorce by Giselle. Even though they won the South Division, it was not great.
I mean, it was an under 500 season.
Yeah.
So, not a lot of hope if I'm the Buccaneers that Tom Brady's going to return. At the same time, so I read off the stat line, 351 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was still a lot of throws out there where Tom Brady and that arm looked cooked. It's a lot of this ball is like 3 yards short of the person that he's throwing it to. Granted, some of that is because he's under pressure, but also a lot of that is because that man is 45 years old. You shouldn't be throwing footballs in that way.
And though, to be fair, there's probably a few teams that would prefer to have the current Tom Brady than some of their quarterbacks right now.
That is also very fair. That is very fair.
Though,
now,
here's the thing, though. If you want to continue, he could still be a very good backup for a transition quarterback next year if they want to go that route.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anybody is getting Tom Brady to come to their team with the plan of him being a backup.
Now, if we're thinking of the other Cowboy players, Ezekiel Elliott, he might be done. Because it's hard with running backs. It's hard because sometimes you get those long, durable ones. Elliott, though, it's kind of hard to.
It's hard to tell, right? And so there are some plays where I feel like, damn, like Zeke probably could have made this same play that Tony Pollard can, but maybe the blocking didn't go right, or whatever. But then there's also some plays where you look, okay, Zeke got 3 yards, but that same exact play Tony Pollard got 8. Like, yeah, let me go ahead and see what Tony's doing. So I think Zeke he's probably not done as in terms of like career. I do think he's probably done with the Cowboys after this season, regardless of how the season plays out. I think this is probably it for him in a Cowboys jersey.
And I just don't know if any team would pick him up because you got the new 2023 draft class. You got also because they're going to be looking at the running backs both in the XFL and USFL. Then you got, I don't know, like Pollard, he'll be the starter.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the one thing we do have to keep an eye on for Tony Pollard, I forget which coach it was. It was not Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, but it was, I believe, their running backs coach. Earlier this season, around the time when they played the Vikings before that blowout, they mentioned that the ideal workload for Tony Pollard is about 20 touches, right? If you get rid of Zeke, you're still going to have to bring somebody in to kind of take some of that workload off of Tony Pollard if you feel like you are risking injury with him once he gets past that 20 touches a game threshold. To me, especially given that how long Zeke's been there, you might as well just ride out. Maybe you restructure the contract so that he's not, such a
salary cap hit. Because he can still work as a serviceable number 2.
Right. He can definitely be your number 2. But the days of Zeke being 1,600 yards and being the number 1 running back are probably done.
Yeah, we'll see. Because also, you have to think with football, there's also some transitioning because, I don't know, the power run game I hope it's not gone. And
Well, I think this thing is probably a little cyclical, right? In terms of, for a few years we've thought about it as like this mostly passing league. But if you look at, honestly, a lot of like, especially the advanced numbers with some of this, a lot of the most efficient offenses in the teams that are winning right now are teams that can run the ball. Now, granted, you take a look at like a team like Kansas City, for instance. Doesn't matter how well they run the ball. They got Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
They kind of the
Though
exception.
in the Cowboys instance, they have, of course, the quarterback that ran how many touchdowns so far?
He's got 4 touchdowns as a runner in the playoffs, Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
he scored his 4th last night, and not to mention threw for another 4 touchdowns and 305 yards. So,
also, interesting fact: with all the divisional preview stuff, all the quarterbacks are below the age of 30.
yeah. So, showing you that again. So we mentioned Tom Brady, kind of bringing this back full circle before we move on to the next game. Even if you were a team, let's say like the Jets, right? Tom Brady probably helps you get over the playoff hump and making the playoffs and not missing them like you did this year. But is Tom Brady really closing the gap for you on like the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals level of the AFC? Because I don't think so. So are you doing it as a like really a win now move, or are you saying, this is a bridge and kind of like the same result effectively of getting like a Derek Carr? Yeah. I think it's probably a lateral move to that. So. We'll keep an eye. Obviously, this is not going to be the last we hear about this Tom Brady situation. If last offseason was any indication, this is going to be a story that we follow for the next few weeks.
Yeah, and next time we have Mike Mitchell on, we'll see if that, because the Jets might be looking for another new quarterback again, apparently.
Yeah. Speaking of the Jets, of course, they parted ways with their offensive coordinator last week. Mike LaFleur, apparently the younger brother of Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers head coach. There's some rumors that he might join the Rams coaching staff, which is now still going to be run by Sean McVay. So.
Yep. Speaking of the Rams here, because there was a little of a scare this weekend for Rams fans.
Oh, yeah.
So if people don't know what we're talking about and this wasn't fake or anything, because I actually did get on this profile, and it did say that. Aaron Donald, for a moment, on his Twitter profile, said former.
Yeah, former professional football player.
And then all of a sudden, then after a while, because even like the CBS Sports Football Twitter account was like, wait, what?
Yeah, what's happening?
Everybody, and even though I'm no longer a Rams fan, there's some people that I know that are Rams fans, and they were just going nuts.
Well, I mean, that's not something that would surprise many Rams fans, but of course, to find out that way would definitely be extremely surprising. So, you think that he would maybe get some type of formal announcement out there before changing the profile, but I guess, he changed it back. Maybe his plan is to actually come back next season. So we will definitely see. Now, the one game that I want to talk about next, and just I'm really, I don't even know the word to describe what goes through my head and think about how this game played out. But the Jaguars and Chargers.
Yeah.
Today is Tuesday. Is it January 17th?
Correct.
This game was played on Saturday, I guess that is now the 14th?
Yeah, it's about early Saturday afternoon, and it was on, what channel was it on?
That was the NBC game, right?
No. No, NBC was the night game where
I'm
both Tony
sorry.
Dungy and Al
It
Michaels.
was,
somehow
Fox.
they brought Al Michaels back.
Right. Now, we're about 72 hours or a little more removed from this game. I'm still shocked that Brandon Staley has a job.
I think a lot of people are surprised because once again, I'm going to have to take my hat off here, because there was basically about everyone, all the football shit posters about everyone, because basically whenever you think of the Chargers in the playoffs, you think of this.
Yeah, choking everywhere. And sure enough, they lived up to that reputation on Saturday. They got out to a 27-0 lead. Trevor Lawrence, first half of his first first playoff game as an NFL quarterback, throws 4 interceptions. 3 of those to Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah, that I was like, again?
And so I had the same reaction to that as I had with Brett Myers for missed extra points last night. Like, wow, is this really how this is going?
It's like, is someone playing Madden and controlling him and just like, I gotta
Like,
get
is this a glitch in the Matrix or something? Like, what's really happening here? Because like we don't think of the Chargers as like this like dominant defense or anything. So it's not like I'm feeling like he's overmatched or anything like that. Like, man, you just really gonna give the other team the ball this often, right? And sure enough, of course, they end the half, they get a touchdown. And somehow we end up with fourth quarter. They end up taking the lead 28-27. Chargers then take the lead 30-28. Oh, I'm sorry. No, they were down 27-0, I believe, then 30-7. They score, of course, go for the 2, get it to 30-28. It's 4th and 1. Shout out to Coach Carl Reed. They line up in the wing T. 4th and 1, they get 25 yards with Travis Etienne. And then next thing you know, they're kicking the game-winning field goal. 31-30 win for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, it was definitely a tale of 2 halves for him. Hey, you know,
I have to do this because this was.
It's sounding all your like a Venn diagram of all your interests. It's bringing wrestling and football together, man.
Well, to be clear, his son does own AEW, and here's an interesting fact here because ever since this picture was taken, because okay, why is all of this being right here? Come on, all right, there we go. Ever since, as you could. Let me fix it. Come on, here we go. Let me do that. That might just fix it there. Ever since this picture was taken, as you can see, this is Trevor Lawrence at, what is the stadium called again? That
TIAA Bank.
By the way, if people haven't catched this show before about the certain renovation, just basically putting a canopy on top of it, costing about, I believe it was either $1 billion or $2 billion.
Yeah, it was $1 billion exactly from what we saw before. So
I don't know if that's going to
expensive.
It's also going to cut as many seats, so that'll make the season tickets go up.
Yeah, cut about 8,000 seats.
Yeah, it's strange that seems to be a trend for some of these stadiums.
I mean, it's capitalism at its finest, baby. We give you less opportunity for this product.
As you can see, ever since this picture with 4 delays here, you got Britt Baker, you got Jamie Hayter, you got Tony Storm, and then of course you got one of the popular ones, Jade Carhill, right there. And ever since apparently they took this picture, Trevor Lawrence hasn't lost a game. I don't know if it's coincidence or not. They are kind of cross-promoting the family businesses together there, so
Right.
it was kind of interesting.
Now, look, it was a tale of 2 halves, obviously, for Trevor Lawrence. He rebounded 4 touchdowns to end the game. Hell of a comeback, right? If you go up 27-0 in the playoffs, you should win that game.
Yeah.
I understand Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent at quarterback. I understand, Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning coach. Get all of that. You're Brandon Staley in the Chargers. You go up 27-0. And you have Justin Herbert on your team. You should win that game. Which is why now it also came out today, or I believe yesterday, that they fired the offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, which he also should go.
Yep, and I believe isn't that also part of Vince Lombardi's family tree? If I remember.
In some way, I forget exactly how the lineation goes, but
that's bad. I'm sorry.
It's just you got to be better,
especially
than that.
with that pedigree. That's the name of the Super Bowl trophy.
Well, and even aside from that, 27-0. We can go and check the box score here, but I'm pretty sure they did not continue to run the ball, and if they were, they definitely were not very effective at it. So that's definitely something. Just again from football IQ. As a coach, offensive coordinator, whatever, you have to find a way to be able to hold a lead, and especially when you get yourself out to a 27-0 lead, or I guess when your defense gets you out to a 27-0 lead, that's definitely a lead you should be able to hold. But of course, 23 carries, 67 rushing yards as a team. That's bad, and that's a fireable offense. As as an offensive coordinator. Y'all were up 27-0. Mind you, this is 4 interceptions in the first half. First half of the game. Y'all throw the ball 43 times. Y'all run it 23. Somebody's got to go. And I think Joe Lombardi is the scapegoat for Brandon Staley because
I know, but
the Chargers owners are probably too cheap to fire him and pay another coach.
Well, remember with the rumors that we know with the history, what's going on with the Spanos family, they're probably going to be selling that team here in a couple of years.
Yeah, man. So
now, here's the thing, too, because if people don't know what has been going on with Justin Herbert, people call him this Emmanuel Ocho, if I remember. Is that, or am I thinking of someone else that call him a social media quarterback?
Oh, no, that's that. Yeah, Emmanuel Ocho from ESPN.
I don't watch the show, but I've seen some of the clips, and there was kind of like this big thing because Charger fans were like going right at him, and he basically yesterday put out what was basically a eulogy, if you will, of all the stuff going on here. And honestly, I'm surprised as many Charger fans that they are ever since they moved from San Diego to L.A., to be quite honest.
Yeah. And that, to be quite honest, that might be why Brandon Staley still has a job, because they don't have as many fans to answer to as most other franchises.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I'm not necessarily defending Acho's point of calling Justin Herbert social media quarterback. I do feel like part of the reason, though, that Joe Lombardi got fired is the fact that even in a game like what you saw on Saturday, Justin Herbert is only averaging 6 yards an attempt. For a quarterback that we know that has the arm and the arm talent that Justin Herbert has, you should be getting a lot more shots down the field. Now, also part of that, Brandon Staley, your biggest deep threat was not able to play in the game because you allowed him to play in a Week 18 game that was completely meaningless and then got hurt and couldn't play in your playoff game. So, again, all of it. Fire the whole coaching staff. Rant over. I'm done talking about the Chargers.
Yeah. Let's see. Just a little bit off of football here because I just want to say I like to say happy birthdays to famous people that were very equivalent.
For sure.
And people don't know, today is actually one of the more iconic movie roles, especially in The Voice. Happy birthday to James Earl Jones, turning 92. I thought we'd say happy birthday because as of right now, the official Star Wars Twitter account has yet to wish him happy birthday like they did last year and didn't
fire the social media people.
Yeah.
I'm firing everybody today. Fire Brandon Staley. They've already fired Joe Lombardi. Fire whoever runs the Twitter account for Star Wars. James Earl Jones, happy birthday.
I think he still has one more acting role if they're doing that Mustafa prequel, if I remember correctly.
Obviously, you got The Lion King. You got Star Wars. For the black community, you got The Father and Coming to America.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. You got, what is it?
Conan the Barbarian.
Sandlot. You got it all, man. Like, it's too many classics. But at the end of the day, happy birthday, James Earl Jones. If Star Wars doesn't care, that's football cares.
Actually, technically Disney.
Yeah, so
Fortunately, they are partnering with the XFL, which we will talk here in a little while. Now,
next game, we got Giants and Vikings.
let me take my hat off again.
There we go.
So,
come on.
This game proved something very interesting. If we're talking about something in the law, this would be considered a white collar crime, if you will.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, what I'm talking about is the one thing that is a felony white collar crime called fraud.
Fraud. Complete and utter fraud. Capital F fraud, baby.
F-R-A-U-D.
Send the Vikings to
Wire
jail,
fraud,
throw away the
mail
key.
fraud,
all of it.
electronics fraud. Not as big as fraud as the FTX that happened a few weeks ago, but
Yeah. Look, that same conversation with crypto. Vikings are right there.
and also hopefully the Miami Heat's able to get that sponsorship off their building. Now,
Yeah, apparently they just calling that the arena right now, so it's hard times right now for the Heat. But the Giants, they went and pulled off what is like basically the most obvious we seen this coming upset there probably could be. The game that I think this reminds me most of as far as like recent playoff history really was last year in the 49ers and Cowboys game. The Cowboys, I believe, were the 4 seed. 49ers were the 5 seed going to Dallas. But it was a game that we all knew, hey, the 49ers are the better team. They're going to go into Dallas. They're going to go in and win. feel like it was the same way for this Giants game. We were just kind of waiting to see it play out. We did not think Daniel Jones was going to be like the second coming of like Michael Vick mixed with like Peyton Manning, but
yeah, it's also kind of strange to me because usually when you consider running quarterbacks, it's usually not the white quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and now you got Daniel Jones, you got Josh Allen.
And ironically enough, Brian Daboll, the Giants head coach, has now been the person apparently responsible for turning both of them into, really high-level starters in the NFL. Because apparently Daniel Jones is way better than we all ever thought that he would be. The first quarterback in NFL playoff history with 300 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 70 rushing yards in the same game. 308 through the air, 301 through the air, 78 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in the 31-24 win for the Giants. Their first playoff win in 11 years on Sunday.
Yeah, that I had to think back for a moment, 11 years, really?
I mean, so you got the thing, and I thought about that too, and I'm like, well, wait, they had some kind of bad years not too long after that Super Bowl in 2011. And then the Odell Beckham years, they were okay, but they were kind of just in the mix. They weren't, legitimate playoff teams. And then the one time they went to the playoffs, they were dropping passes all over Lambeau Field. So, big win for them. Again, Brian Daboll continuing to show us why he needs to be the coach of the year in the NFL.
Well, do they divide that by NFC then AFC? Or is it just straight up in the league?
So if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's a league-wide award. It's not conference specific.
Because if it's conference, I don't know. I'm thinking about the old Madden and ESPN video games because
right.
They had those awards. If it was by conference, then AFC would either be Mike Tomlin or the Dolphins coach.
Yeah, I guess you probably give the edge to Mike McDaniel just because the team made the playoffs. But again, Mike Tomlin to get that team from 2-6 to 9-8.
NFC, it would either be the Giants or the Niners coach to be quiet.
Well, and I guess you probably throw Nick Sirianni in there from the Eagles. I personally think what Brian Daboll is doing was a much harder job than what Nick Sirianni, the Eagles coach, had to do. Now, granted, Kyle Shanahan probably should get some love for keeping this Brock Purdy train rolling, which we'll get to in a little bit as well.
Yes, an interesting story about Purdy because this is kind of Kurt Warner-esque in a way.
Right.
Though, because Brock Purdy, he has a little title to him, and if people don't know what that is, it's to whatever is the last player drafted in the NFL draft, which is called Mr. Irrelevant. Now, I do remember that when the Rams were still here, we did have a Mr. Irrelevant named David Verbora that actually started for a few years. Yep. So some of those irrelevants, though, I do remember when the Chiefs did it, they also drafted a kicker who is now one of the best kickers in the NFL. So if I remember correctly, isn't it Mr. Irrelevant supposed to have some type of parade in a small town somewhere?
They do some parade, and then of course they give them this whole jersey thing at the draft, which the more I think about it, that whole Mr. Irrelevant thing is a little bit more condescending than we probably think it is. But Brock Purdy, of course, turned it into a legend-making type of thing.
I do want to mention, because Fox was very brilliant on this, getting Paul Heyman. And when they were talking about Brock saying, he did with Brock Lesnar, going, Brock Purdy. So good idea on that, Fox.
Yeah, good on them. Now, also want to note, the Fox announcing crew on that Giants and Vikings game, I felt was outstanding on Sunday. It really felt like a playoff game, and not all, so for instance, even the end of the Jaguars and Chargers game, it was kind of some dull moments, even though there was a lot of high intensity, high drama to it, right?
Yeah.
That they made me feel the drama in that Giants and Vikings game. So,
yeah.
Also, really quickly, Kirk Cousins. It was 4th and 8, not 4th and 2. Just in case you didn't know. Seems like he thought it was a much shorter down the distance than that.
Now, you would think Kirk Cousins would progress a bit, because remember, he finally got rid of that primetime jinx of his this season.
I guess. If we can go back to former Vikings and Cardinals coach Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were. The Vikings are the same exact frauds that we thought that they were.
And Viking fans must be furious. They lost in that glass dome of theirs that birds seem to be flying into, killing themselves in, and here's the thing. NFL, for your new stadiums, could you get away from that type of model, please? Because boy, it's you already had the new stadium, and so far have rain coming down through it.
Well, and I think the thing too is that the NFL are going to those stadiums partially because that's a way for them to have a dome while also still be able to show for these TV games that is daytime versus nighttime. For some areas though, obviously we saw in LA, they clearly didn't plan for the rain. Clearly in Minnesota, they haven't prepared for birds running to the side of it. You got to find your balance in something like that. The Cowboys kind of do it okay, but even theirs, the sun just kind of comes through one side and the top. It's all weird.
Dallas has a problem with some post blocking for some fans sitting in the cheap seats up there, unfortunately. Let's see.
Now, next on this rundown that we had here, Bills and Dolphins, which turned out to be a much closer game than any of us probably thought it would be.
Yes.
Bills won that one 34-31. 3 turnovers from Josh Allen, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble.
A fumble, I'm not surprised because of how he runs.
Well, but even the play that it happened on, it's the same exact play where he kind of hurt his elbow earlier this year against the Jets. They were able to get the fumble and, of course, able to turn it into points for the Dolphins. Dolphins went out there, were down 17-0 initially. I thought this game was going to be the same kind of blowout we all probably predicted that it would be with them starting the third-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson. But Thompson came back, looked pretty serviceable. Didn't get the win, but made some plays late in that game. The defense made some plays late in that game, but ultimately they lose it 34-31 on the road. Now, if you are a Bills fan, probably a little concerned with how that game went. Defensively, when you can't keep Skylar Thompson, now granted,
was this a game with a penalty problem? I can't recall.
Yeah, so that was the other thing with this game. So you had a lot of the penalties. Not only were a lot of penalties being called, but they were being it was all of those penalties where you hear them say, prior to the snap. A lot of these where they were calling penalties, but the play started and had to stop, which obviously not ideal for anybody on the field, but also not ideal for any of us watching the games from home. So I do think they had – you can call it an officiating problem. It probably was a volume problem in terms of how loud that stadium was. But either way, a pretty sloppy game given, who was participating. If I'm a Bills fan, though, I'm not real thrilled with only winning that game by 3 points.
No, they shouldn't. And also to have a backup quarterback do that to your defense.
Yeah, it's a backup quarterback. Again, he's throwing to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but at the same time, you should be able to – this is also a quarterback that you just saw, a few weeks ago. This is not something new. Skylar Thompson, I believe, was the quarterback when they played in Buffalo a couple weeks back. So I don't think this would be something that would be a surprise to them. This is a guy that you've seen, you got tape on. For a team that's supposed to win the Super Bowl or be a Super Bowl contender, to give up 31 points to that Dolphins offense that also could not run the ball. I think Jeff Wilson was their rushing leader with 23 yards. No, I have serious questions right now about how that Bills defense is now supposed to stop both the Bengals and likely the Chiefs in order to get to the Super Bowl. I got some doubts on that one.
Yeah, and especially when we preview the divisional games here, it's going to be because if they played like they do in their next game, it's not going to work.
Yeah, if you giving up 31 to Skylar Thompson, you're probably going to give up 41 to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and them. So definitely something that the Bills have to get right going into next week. Now,
before we continue, how about we need to do a little bit of house cleaning with our advertisers.
Yes. So, of course, for those of y'all just joining us, this is another episode of That's Football here on the In the Zone Network at the My City, My Music Studios, brought to you by Cafe Piazza here in St. Louis at 1600 Arsenal Street. If you have not been there before, outstanding pizzas, drink options, all kinds of your toasted raviolis, local favorites. You've also got the Benton Park arcade where you've got all of your throwback games. My favorite, of course, being NBA Jam. You've got your Mortal Kombat in the arcade. Decked out with all of your WWE paraphernalia. You've got all kinds of fun stuff that you can get into down there at Cafe Piazza. Great spot to catch a drink, catch a game, or to just, find another place quiet to tune in, and that's football on a Tuesday night. So, again, Cafe Piazza here in St. Louis, 1600 Arsenal Street, just on the other side of the highway from the Anheuser-Busch Brewery.
And World Bird Sanctuary, did you mention that?
Oh, yes. So, World Bird Sanctuary as well. Our friend Call the Hawk, we are starting to Let Him Fly campaign here across all social media. We are, of course, working with the World Bird Sanctuary and them using Call the Hawk as the official mascot of our very own XFL's St. Louis Battlehawks. So, for those games here in the Dome that are actually, we count down, we're only a few weeks away, Will. So
month,
of course,
actually, yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm getting antsy, man, getting excited. We want to not only see the Battlehawks, but we want to see Cause as well as the rest of his cattle, Mohawk, The Rock. You got Danny the Hawk as well. Want to see all of them getting a chance to fly in the Dome. So Let Him Fly, of course, is the official campaign there on social media. Also, check out the World Bird Sanctuary at worldbirdsanctuary.org. Definitely a place to be able to go check out the not only the number of different types of bird species that they house here in St. Louis, but also ways that you can donate not only to better the conditions that those birds are housed under, but also going towards various causes to keep those birds from going extinct.
Yeah. Also, another thing, speaking with one of the birds, Mohawk, there's already a Mohawk lot already for tailgating that is getting pretty filled up. Actually, right near the Dome. I actually got a parking pass for that. Be held near the Dome at the Grace Baptist Church, run by Pastor Dave. Maybe electricity, I'm not too sure, so it ain't going to affect the congregation or anything going on in the Sunday game, so it will be interesting to experience that here, and also the tailgating experience as well. And also, before we go to the next game, there was one thing that kind of caught my eye, if you will, that we already know that the Washington Commanders are for sale.
Yep.
But apparently the bids are not above $5 or not close to $5 or $6 billion, and Jeff Bezos have yet to put a bid.
Yeah, so I saw a little bit about the story today. I didn't get a chance to read it in full, but from what I saw is that he apparently is no longer going to be part of a bid to try to own the Washington Commanders. So I'm not sure who else is kind of taking the charge in terms of leading candidates to make that purchase. But from all indications right now, Jeff Bezos is not going to be the man to own the team. So I imagine for some Commanders fans that might be some worrisome news in terms of who the next owner is going to be. But again, we'll definitely keep our eye on that team and that situation moving forward, and seeing what that ownership or new ownership group happens to, or who that happens to be once we get news here. Apparently that sale is going to be finalized at some point in the next few weeks. It's a timeline that I saw, not anything super specific, but definitely something for us to keep watch for. So next game on our recap here, Bengals and Ravens, a game that was just as, knocked down, drag out as the AFC North typically provides us with. A game that also was kind of going the underdog's way for most of it. The Ravens were right there in this game. Their defense played outstanding, especially early on, and being able to get some 3-and-outs on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately for them, as has been the case for many of these games in which they've been without Lamar Jackson, just not able to get it going enough on offense. They were able to get the running game going a little bit with that two-headed attack, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Unfortunately, just not enough. Losing 24-17. The big pivotal play of that game, of course, right there on the goal line. I think they were at the 1 or 2 yard line. Tyler Huntley goes in to try to QB sneak, but extends the ball in an effort to try to get it over the goal line. Gets knocked out of his hand, and of course, defensive lineman Sam Hubbard gets the fumble recovery and the 98-yard touchdown as a result of it. So big swing play where the Ravens go from having a chance to take the lead to then having to go and defend the extra point while now, of course, being down 7 points. So not ideal if you're the Ravens. We'll get to the Bengals aspect of this in a second. Biggest part of this as a result of this loss now is what does this mean for Lamar Jackson? He had a couple, kind of cryptic tweets. Well, I guess one not so cryptic was an update on his injury situation, which I also saw a lot of former players basically telling him that he needs to, put a brace on it and just play.
So
come on.
Let me describe both sides and who the two players that are on that. One side you got with a brace is someone that actually did play with a torn ACL, and that, of course, is former Atlanta and Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Michael Vick.
Yep.
And then on here you have the other side playing, wait till you get healthy, and that would be Robert Griffin III.
Yeah.
Interesting, because both of them are kind of similar, but two things happen differently. Of course, I do cause RG3's injury due to the horrible field conditions at FedEx Field.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a very interesting, is debate the right word I would say about this?
I guess, because I think you had, Michael Vick basically say you need to put a brace on it and get out there and play. You had RG3 tweet basically a picture of himself turning his knee and basically re-injuring himself as a still shot photo on Twitter and basically saying these are the reasons why you should not go and put that brace on and play. First parts of this, I think the only reason that Michael Vick is saying put a brace on it and play, and this is not, Michael Vick is one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen touch a football field.
And we'll stand away from his off the field issues.
Yeah, we'll stay because people are going to mention the dog fight, and he's also done a lot as a dog advocate. Redemption, and all that. Yeah. Cool. The problem I have with Michael Vick's stance is he was never in a position to have to suck it up and play in the playoffs. He also, to my knowledge, was never in a point where he had damage to multiple knee ligaments and was being pressured to play. Never remember that from Michael Vick's career. If there's somebody that could point me to a time where that was an expectation of him, I'll take the L on being wrong on that. I haven't seen it thus far. Everybody, and Sean Payton had a comment too about you got to make it more about the team. It's not about you right now. But last time I checked, Lamar Jackson's a mobile quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's a runner. If he can't do that effectively, why is he out on the field?
Yeah, and I will say, though, Hundley did well. Of course, the best receiver he had was actually Mark Andrews.
I mean, he's throwing. You want Lamar Jackson to go out here and risk further injury to throw to guys like DeMarcus Robinson and Devin Duvernay. Or I'm sorry, Devin Duvernay's on IR. So DeMarcus Robinson, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, I get where it's supposed to be the team aspect of it, right? Totally understand that. But you also have teammates of his that have came out and commented and said, we know Lamar is hurt. We don't question that. It's very weird to me that the media still does, though. It's like we want him to live up to an expectation of what your ideal quarterback is supposed to be when, for the Ravens, he has been the ideal quarterback. And to be quite honest, a lot of people are, he had the cryptic tweet about take care of what you have, all of that. The Ravens need to be careful because if you give Lamar Jackson the room to be able to leave, or you think about trading him elsewhere, the QB market is like the dating market in 2023. It's not all it's cracked up to be, man.
Yeah, and I will say this. It's interesting what happens when you give your running back some time to recover. Let's see, what was his name? Oh, yeah, someone that was on my fantasy team. Dobbins.
Yes.
And he was one of the only other offensive weapons that the Ravens had. If I remember correctly, where is that stats? Oh, yeah. He was the leading rusher, even though it wasn't that much, 62 yards. He was the only better offensive weapon during that game besides Mark Andrews.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, like, just, again, from everything that we've seen with not only Lamar Jackson, but also how the Ravens handle their business, if Lamar Jackson was healthy enough to play, he'd have been on the field. I wholeheartedly believe that. If you feel like, he's playing it out for his contract, let's be honest, that's probably the right move. Even if he doesn't plan on leaving Baltimore, if you are telling, again, a mobile quarterback to get out there and play on a knee that's less than 100%, he goes out and re-injures it, the Ravens aren't going to be in a rush to still give him that contract anyway. Mm-hmm. Flip side of that, he goes out and he gets his knee 100% healthy. He stays, signs with the Ravens, does everything that he needs to do, and then next year, year after whenever, he's able to lead them to those playoff wins that he missed this year. Now we're talking about something. Now, the one thing I will say, and, there's probably some rules to this as far as players. Obviously, they played this game on the road. This was not a home game for the Ravens. I do think it's a little weird that he's not at the game with the team. Again, part of that traveling while injured, probably not ideal for him, so I get that aspect of it. But I do think even if you, not 100%, if you can be there with the team, be there with the team. But I also understand, again, the rules that may surround that might keep him home.
Not to mention there were some rumors he could go to the Jets, but I'm not even going to touch that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that with Mike Mitchell in terms of him potentially being an option for the Jets at quarterback. We'll see if it gets that far. I do believe the Ravens will probably franchise tag him before they let him go elsewhere. But we'll see. I think to question his absence from that game is a little bit disrespectful to Lamar, again, based on what we've seen, and also a little disrespectful to the Ravens based on how they run that organization. But I do think it's also fair for Lamar to be more concerned about his long-term health than a playoff game that, quite honestly, they were going to be overmatched in regardless. Mm-hmm. Put that out there. So, final game from Wild Card Weekend, which was actually the first game of Wild Card Weekend, 49ers and Seahawks. 49ers ended up winning this one convincingly. It did not start out that way.
No.
Much closer game, first half of it. Then it turned out to be in the second half. 49ers ended up pulling away 41-23. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant himself, 332 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, also ran for a touchdown. This is probably getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we have not seen the Philadelphia Eagles play just yet. Obviously, they got a first-round bye, the only first-round bye in the NFC. I think the 49ers are the NFC's best team, and that's with Brock Purdy. It's hard stop.
Yeah, especially since we are unsure about Jalen Hurts' status this weekend.
Well, and, Jalen Hurts apparently, from what we saw in the final game of the season, recovered, able to play. I think the difference between these two teams, though, and again, we may see Brock Purdy finally have a rookie moment. We have not seen him have it just yet, or we haven't had it for an extended period of time when we have seen it. That 49ers team around him, though, just everywhere else, just doesn't have a hole. Offensively, you got Deebo Samuel back now. You've even got Elijah Mitchell back now to complement Christian McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle on the offensive end. The offensive line has played well. Defensively, they are as good of a team as you're going to see in today's day and age. Obviously, you got Nick Bosa, you got Fred Warner flying around. The secondary's playing well. They really have literally every piece of their team working together at the right time. I don't see how you beat them outside of Brock Purdy just essentially giving you the game.
And like you said, and also that 1-2 punch. Well, actually, 1-2-3 punch when you had Brock, McCaffrey, and Samuel.
Yeah, like you've got.
Oh no! 1, 2, 3, 4, Kittle.
I mean, you literally got elite players at every position. Christian McCaffrey, if not the best running back in the league, one of the top 2 or 3.
Dare
Deebo
I say maybe
Samuel's
better
elite.
than the Chiefs?
Offensively, they've got. I mean, the Chiefs. The Chiefs obviously are at a different level because of the quarterback, right? Brock Purdy is never, even at his best, is never going to be in the same class as Patrick Mahomes. So it's a little bit of give and take. Brock Purdy is able to be elevated by the guys around him, whereas Patrick Mahomes is the one doing the elevating. He's the guy making Juju Smith-Schuster, allow him to put up, elite type of numbers. Obviously not fully elite for the full season, but at one game at a given time. Same thing. Travis Kelce is obviously one of the greatest tight ends we've ever seen. But outside of that, I think supporting cast wise, you would definitely take the 49ers guys over the Chiefs. But you're definitely taking Patrick Mahomes over. You're taking him over Brock Purdy. You're taking him over Jimmy Garoppolo. You're taking him over Trey Lance. You're taking over anybody that would be the 49ers
that's
quarterback.
going to be an interesting situation no matter what comes out with the Niners. What do they do with those other 2 quarterbacks?
Well, I think it's pretty solidified now. Brock Purdy has to be your starter. Beyond that, you were already probably going to let Jimmy Garoppolo go elsewhere next year.
Well, here's also the thing, too. With Brock Purdy's current contract, it's the most cost-effective, too.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. He's not only a rookie, he is a rookie that was the very last pick in the draft. He has literally the cheapest rookie salary you can probably have as an NFL
I'm pretty
player.
sure there's some bonuses in there for starting, but I'm not too sure. Contracts within the NFL or most sports contracts when it comes to bonuses are like...
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts.
Especially after they got rid of remember earlier this year, Kyler Murray had that stupid boneheaded thing with the...
the homework clause where he gets a bonus for watching more film or something like that. So, the bonus clauses and all that stuff is all a lot of moving parts. But again, man, the 49ers, even if you slow them down offensively, you still you got to do a lot to be able to put up points on that defense. Now, granted, Seattle was able to move the ball again the first half, but again, they finished the game with 23 points. They got 17 of those before halftime. So when that defense really locks in, they can really suffocate you. And I think especially getting through the rest of the NFC, we talked about these other games already. They're going to see the Cowboys next week. We'll obviously preview that game. I'm taking that defense over anything that I've seen from the Eagles this year. And I've been impressed by the Eagles, but I still would prefer San Fran. And I'm definitely taking San Francisco over the Giants. As great of a story as the Giants are, no way in hell they're beating the 49ers in San Francisco.
Yeah. And the question is, where do the Seahawks go after this? Because do they still keep Geno? Do they go with another quarterback? And I'm surprised, people assume that Carroll would retire after this year.
Well, I think if you're Seattle, I think it still makes sense. You can do another year or two with
Wait a minute,
Geno.
doesn't Seattle have another first-round pick, or am I thinking of a different team?
No, Seattle has Denver's first-round pick.
Oh, that's right.
Now, I think more than likely what you'll see, Seattle's probably going to draft somebody on the defensive side of the ball. Now, it might be, it's a lot of time between now and the draft, but you might see them take a quarterback. Excuse me. I don't think they necessarily have to be in a rush to do that, though.
No, but
I think Geno's been fine.
I will say they do have the capital now if they do want to make a trade up.
They do have that. But I question whether or not, if you're Seattle, are you trading up to draft a QB that's probably only going to get a year or two with Pete Carroll, or do you say, hey Pete, you got another year or two left in you. We'll go ahead, ride it out with Geno, kind of stay afloat, use these draft picks on some of the other, parts around the roster, kind of helping retool that defense, adding some weapons on offense, which, of course, you've seen them do that with Kenneth Walker. I think they probably go more that route, let Pete Carroll try to, obviously not go out on top, but at least go out in a winning way as opposed to trying to bottom out with a rookie quarterback and try to rebuild that way. So, but yeah, Seahawks, I think they're in an okay spot going into next year. 49ers, man, we're just going to see if they can keep that train rolling.
Yeah, of course, quick notes here, because today the Titans hired a new GM, Ron Carthon. Wasn't he from the Niners?
Yeah, so he is the 49ers director of pro personnel, now hired as the new general manager of the Titans. And then former Titans director of player personnel, Monty Ossenfort, is now the new general manager for the Arizona Cardinals. So
Yeah, that of course, that one was obvious for the Cardinals, especially because, remember, it was kind of confusing. They wanted to let go of their former general, yet still be part of the organization.
yeah, apparently he was going to take a different role in the organization, but then ultimately stepped away for health reasons. So.
Let me be clear, health reasons, it's like this.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna put some quotations around that one. That's that's the reason they gave the media. We don't know if that's the legitimate reason why he decided to step away. But obviously, wishing Steve Keim none the best if it is something health related. So got some GMs moving around, and of course we mentioned as far as other non-playoff news. Sean McVay, of course, staying with the Rams. We mentioned Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator of the Jets, who they parted ways with. Apparently, he may find his way onto Sean McVay's staff, which makes sense given the relationship that Sean McVay has with his older brother, Matt LaFleur. So,
Yeah. That'll take care of the first part of our NFL coverage here. We'll go into XFL and USFL coverage here, but let's take a little bit into the college road here. I am surprised. Here's the thing when it comes to now with the new transfer portal, because now they're getting more transfers late in there. And
yes.
And you and I talked about this. We don't know when the cutoff date for this. I do know the NCAA is going to change some transfer portal rules. I know this was recorded more on the JUCO news side, so...
Yeah, I'm interested to see what those changes happen to be. You get a lot of coaches that now complain about the transfer portal, which part of it I get in the sense that you're going to have a lot of players that enter the transfer portal just because they're pouting about playing time. But in all fairness, coaches pack up and leave every year and go to a school of their choosing. If a player that chooses that they want to transfer 5 years in a row, that should be their right.
Yeah, of course. Remember, because, see, we're almost at the end with these group of players having that, because due to COVID in 2020, all college players during that time had an extra year of eligibility.
Correct.
And we're going to soon get out of there, because that's why you have so many like graduate transfers, this, that, unless, of course, there's two red shirts. There's the regular red shirt, and then there's the medical red shirt.
Right.
So it's interesting. So there's a little bit of Mizzou news, but first wanted to give our condolences, because during last week there was a death within the Georgia Bulldogs deal.
Yes.
The Georgia... I can't remember. Offensive line, defensive line, Devin Willock, and one of their staffers died in a car accident.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see if I can find that staffer's name.
Yeah, I couldn't, it said staffer on the headline, wait a minute, where's the staffer's name?
Sorry, just a second here. So, apparently they released a report on this today. Police report lists excessive speed as a cause in the fatal crash for Georgia football player Devin Willock. Let's see. 2 other people were in the car, including offensive lineman Warren McClendon, who had just announced Saturday he will enter the NFL draft. Let's see. Willock was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the vehicle, recruiting analyst Chandler LaCroix, died shortly after being taken to a hospital. So, looks like everybody involved were wearing seatbelts. McClendon only suffered minor injuries. Laceration to the middle of his head was kind of the only thing that was reported. So, unfortunately, of course, definitely hate to hear about loss of life for anybody in a car accident. But of course, in this case specifically, 20-year-old football player and 24-year-old recruiting analyst. Definitely some folks gone too soon in that case, man. So we want to send our prayers and condolences to those families involved. Ugly situation all over.
Even though it was excessive speeding. It hasn't said anything about alcohol at all yet.
No, has not mentioned any additional causes
so
beyond.
Yeah, we don't need that. So Mizzou had some transfers here. I believe last week I mentioned about the offensive tackle Johnson from Eastern Michigan. Like I said, they needed that.
Yeah, the offensive line needed help for sure.
And because, well, one good thing is too, one of their offensive tackles is returning, Javon Foster. He was a team captain. That's another good thing because look here, for Mizzou, we are okay with your defense. It's the offense that was the problem. Yeah. And, of course, hiring Kirby Moore, Kellen Moore's brother, from getting his why am I forgetting the school? He was the offensive coordinator, was in the Mountain West. Forgive me here. Let's see. Mizzou had about 4 other transfers. First was a 4-star athlete, wide receiver Dallas Jackson from Ole Miss. 6 foot, speedy guy, so that's one thing that needed an improve as well since Lovett went to Georgia.
Yep.
So that would be a good combination. Oh, yeah, Barrister. That's one player I'm interested if anyone in the NFL will pick up or in the USFL, XFL next year. Because you kind of do need that. Unfortunately, I'll say this white slot quarterback that somehow gets to seem to open.
Hey, look,
he might be going to the Patriots. You never know.
Hey, look, the Patriots. I feel like they always got a need for a white wide receiver somewhere.
Hey,
somewhere
for example, Cole Beasley was an answer to that for the Bills.
Look,
and he was retired a few weeks before.
Hey, Cole Beasley got a dedication to the game that I've never seen. That man is retired like twice in the middle of the season and still come back. Like, it's crazy. Dedicated to the game, man.
Yeah.
Also, really quickly from some college football, we had, of course, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud officially declared for the draft. Also got official declaration for the draft from TCU's wide receiver Quentin Johnson and running back Kendre Miller. So,
and I believe there was also USC wide receiver that declared as well.
Yes, Jordan Addison, star wide receiver from USC, is now also officially declaring for the draft, projected to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft.
Yeah. One reason Dallas Jackson came to Mizzou, because actually before he was recruited actually by the current wide receivers coach, Cohen, Jacob Peeler was actually the wide receivers coach at Ole Miss before he came to Mizzou. Okay. So that was more familiarity and stuff there. Then, well, hey, you want to do more for your defense here? 3-star Arizona State defensive end Joe Mo III. One thing is you're bringing hometown play because he was from Cardinal Ritter.
Yep.
And here's the thing. Arizona State, it's not really what I would call, if you know the joke with that one, an academic institution. Because even when you and I were in college, Josh, Arizona State has a very big history when it comes to partying.
Well, and even not in college. There's a company that I work for. I'll keep the company's name out of it, but they have a headquarters in Phoenix that we would go to for like different training meetings and things like that. And it was literally right down the street from Arizona State's campus. So
in Tempe?
So a lot of the bars and things that we would go out to as a team would also see a lot of those college students. And I'm going to tell you this: I've had about 4 or 5 of those trips out to Phoenix at different times of the year. None of them included seeing college students that were doing anything academic. They were all out. Which again, enjoy your college years. No judgment from me, but just saying.
Then they also strengthened their defense again with a 3-star safety, Sidney Williams from Florida State. Yep. So, hey, if you do more with that secondary, because early on that secondary did not look that great.
No, and from what we've seen, the way to win in the SEC is you got to have some studs on the defensive side of the ball. So Mizzou obviously taking heat to that.
Yeah, so one thing, too, is another thing, because I was surprised that we need this, but then when I look forward, like, oh, we do need him. And that is punter. We had one punter, then we had a walk-on. Apparently, he had some family ties to punting in the NFL. He left and transferred and went to Syracuse, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Now we got Riley Williams from Townsend University. Actually, he's from Australia. Do not be surprised. We see some kickers coming from Australia, especially playing rugby and some other sports down under.
Speaking of kickers from Australia, Jamie Gillan, who I believe is the punter right now for the New York Giants. If he's not from Australia, I know obviously he's from another country. He's not from America. Somehow happened to end up going to Arkansas Pine Bluff. For those of y'all keeping score at home, that is an HBCU, ladies and gentlemen. So somebody dropped that man off from Australia right in the middle of Arkansas. I'll just saying that to say that I would just love to hear some of the stories from his time on that historically black campus. Would love to hear what those stories are like.
Yeah. Let's see here. And Riley Williams was the 4th best player nationally in the FCS with the All-Colonial League and stuff. His average was 44.7 yard average. Actually, 3 yards more than our last punter that transferred out. So,
sometimes addition by subtraction, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a little bit of an upgrade. That's all.
I'll take care of college now. Now we're going to go to the XFL. But first, we're going to talk about the happy hour that we have here. I was able to. Unfortunately, Josh wasn't able to, but hopefully we'll be getting you in.
Oh yeah, we go get to some of these here soon.
Interesting enough. Wonder who that is right there.
Look, man, you were famous for the week, brother. You done got all the love from the official Battlehawks channel. Battlehawks Twitter feed, showing you all the love with the pictures with Coach Beck, Coach Glover,
with the St. Louis Rams history there.
Look. Also, a great shameless plug for him. Great account to follow St. Louis Rams history for us St. Louis folks who miss our version of the Rams as opposed to LA Rams.
And also St. Louis football history on Facebook as well. Yeah, that is me, because one of the coaches that came there was also who worked in the Rams organization before they left. That is the defensive line coach. My favorite position, Leroy Glover, former Saint, Ram, and very nice guy, and I was so happy. You know why I was so happy.
Oh, yeah, man. He gave you some insight, right? Gave you a little bit of insight.
I asked him, I told him, I hope, you guys played a 3-4, because I played a nose in a 3-4. And he said, oh, you're like one of those guys. And it's like, yeah, it hurt a little bit, but also was, even though it was fun getting double or triple team, but I still kind of pushed him back.
Oh, yeah.
And he was happy to tell me that the Battlehawks are running a 3-4, ladies and gentlemen. So,
look at that.
Especially, I kind of figured this out, especially how they were drafting their linebackers.
Right.
Especially since there's a few Iowa State products, Mike Rose, and then the one that is very interesting, I showed you this, the one with the awesome mullets, Silas from Coastal Carolina.
Hey, look, all I know is everybody that I've seen play football with a mullet turned out to be pretty good. The same.
And also,
it's usually them dudes that do all that wild stuff with their hair that will knock you on your ass on the football field. I'm just saying, man.
Yeah, and also, too, here is, let's get out of there. There was also another one that happened here. And also another, let me get here. Let me see if I'm able, I can't zoom in. They were able to put one of our fan picks right here.
There we go.
That's, of course, with some of the guys with the Blue World Order or Battlehawks World Order here, along with the Blue Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. Oh, that reminds me. Happy 30th anniversary to the Power Rangers franchise.
Yeah, I did. I saw they supposed to be doing some type of a reunion thing, man.
Especially and also with the Blue Ranger Billy, played by David Yost.
Yeah.
Another person was Ricky Prohl. It's kind of, he was a little bit I was glad to look at Ricky Pro. I was there in the Dome when they did the catch and went before at the NFC Championship against Tampa Bay. Yeah, that game was very nervousing, especially defensively for that game.
Oh yeah. I would love to talk to Ricky just about what was going through his head at the time that catch happened.
Yeah, I was talking to him I would like to see the interest because his son Austin is on the team, so that'll be interesting. And also, I did talk about that one player I talked to you about from the National Arena League from Florida State.
Oh yes.
So he knew who I was talking about because I couldn't remember the name at the time. Then, of course, you had Anthony Beck there. Brian Stoley was there. But also one more person that was there, that, of course, was the new assistant director, of the business operations. That, of course, is Hazelwood East alumni Brandon Williams.
Yes, sir. The Hazelwood East.
Yes.
Go Spartans.
Spartans. Yes. Let me make sure we have a picture of him here. I know they should have a picture of Brandon here. There we go, right there. All right. So there were some interesting things when I talked to Brandon, actually, and also stuff, too, because one thing that when he said it, I was like, okay, I have to ask this because it's not this is insider information, but it was kind of obvious. besides graduating from Hazelwood East, besides going to the University of Wisconsin, he got his master's at a school nearby here called Lindenwood University.
What do you know?
And he mentioned that, and then I was like, well, let's see here. This year, Lindenwood became a Division I program, even though it's not FBS, it's FCS, but technically now that is St. Louis's Division I program because it's right next door.
Yep.
Until SLU gets a football team again, which hasn't been a while. Heck, their old football field one is basically just a grass field.
Yeah. No love for football at SLU, unfortunately.
Yeah, we have an NAIA team and a Division III team with Fontbonne. I don't think we have a D2 team in an area. Nah, No, we need a JUCO. One person we still need to try to get Carl Reed on here, especially.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Reed, man. We're gonna invite him back. Of course, we had some scheduling issues last time we invited him on, so nothing to blame on anybody. But
because one thing, if you haven't seen his Twitter feed talking about, especially with the new NIL stuff for college athletes, oh boy, because that is separating from players that you think have the urge, and those are just want to make a buck.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you're gonna get a lot of these guys just like with anybody at the professional level in any sport. You're going to get these guys that are not only able to, get scholarships, get NIL deals, but you're going to get some of those guys where they turn out to be busts. And unfortunately, people going to pay, money on these NIL deals, and the talent is not going to be worth what you pay.
This was a good event. We had this was good because they need to start getting some local stuff. Like you're seeing some of the other XFL teams. Like for the Sea Dragons, you had Hazlitt and one of the quarterbacks. I think it was Ben DiNucci and Josh Gordon. Of course, if anyone knows Seattle, one of the biggest things that is famous is that fish market.
Oh, yeah.
And they were, like, throwing a fish around and stuff. Yesterday in San Antonio, Hines Ward, they were at the MLK Junior March in San Antonio with a few of the players. We need to start, like, we know this is different between the 2020 and 2023. Like, they have a presence here, but it's not as physical as it was because year one, they are doing the training camps here in Texas and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that proceeds from here on out. And it was a good, fun event, hopefully for more. There still hasn't been a season ticket event as of yet. I'm expecting that will probably happen soon at some point.
Yeah, and then, of course, single game tickets definitely officially live
they
now
are
on the website,
available for everyone right now. And I'll say this, there's a good amount. We're not to the fill the top thing yet, but we're getting close, especially for the first home game. The cheapest ticket right now is $42.
Yeah.
Though, unfortunately, with Ticketmaster, the fees are ridiculous. And there's already some people I expected as some reselling tickets if you see them with the pink light. Is it pink or purple?
I think it's pink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that happened is now for Tuesday for the XFL, this is when they actually still can sign free agents still.
Yeah.
And there were some signings over last week here that I have here. Let me go through here real quick. The San Antonio Brahmas, they signed linebacker Drew Lewis, 6'2", 220 from Colorado, 2019 NFL draft, undrafted. Signed to Houston, then went to Indianapolis, New Orleans. Former XFL 2020 player with the Houston Roughnecks, then played for the Houston Gamblers for the USFL, now with the Brahmas. So when it comes to All-Star Football Leagues, he stayed in Texas.
Hey, he's been around, but obviously that experience is going to help him.
Yeah, safety, cornerback again for the Brahmas, Gavin Robertson, 6'1", 215. Arizona at first, but then went to Montana. 13 Big Sky Conference, NFL Draft, 2022, undrafted. So one of the new guys that I couldn't find anything that he signed with. DC Defenders, offensive line, Mike Brown, 6'4", 320 from West Virginia. Country roads, take me home. Sorry. 2021 NFL Draft, undrafted, signed with New Orleans. Another former USFL player played with the New Jersey Generals. So they're going back and forth here.
Yep.
Well, I'll mention that a little bit more once we go with the USFL news, and there's definitely a lot to talk about in the USFL side. Arlington Renegades, defensive back Cody Trippett, 5'11", 195, Rhode Island, All-CAA, safety and punt returner, son of Patriots linebacker Andre Tippett.
Okay.
NFL Draft 22 undrafted, was in Patriots minicamp. I wonder why.
Right. Something tells me the bloodline helped get him there on that one.
Then for the Vegas Vipers, you had Kevin McGill, 6 foot, 200 pounds, Eastern Michigan, 2020 NFL Draft, undrafted. Went to the Chargers, then was part of the IFL Massachusetts Pirates, and now with the Vipers. And this is the thing here, because here's the thing, too, you have to remember, because remember, the XFL has that partnership with the Indoor Football League.
Right.
Also, too, it's interesting, all the Arena Football League profile pics were updated, so we mentioned that was coming back. Now it's going to be interesting.
For sure.
See if Bon Jovi buys the Philadelphia Soul again.
Right.
So then, because once the final deals and whoever's on the practice squad, some of those players that were in this very training camp's going to be playing the IFL.
Yeah.
So then you have also linebacker James Folston, 6'4", 250, Pittsburgh, 2019 NFL Draft, undrafted, played for the Cardinals, Packers, Titans, Dallas Renegades. Now that's the Arlington Renegades. This is back with back at the XFL 22. Then he went to CFL for Edmonton Elks, then played also with the USFL with the New Orleans Breakers. That reminds me, too, congratulations to the BC Lions quarterback Nathan Rourke that signed a contract with the Jaguars, who's now the backup for Trevor Lawrence.
Nice. Very nice. Love seeing those guys get a chance, man.
Then you final signings from our St. Louis Battlehawks. Defensive back. This is the one group that's going to be very competitive, and that's the core.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Defensive back Bryce Watts, 6 foot 185, Virginia Tech and UMass. NFL Draft 2022, undrafted, signed by Steelers, got injured, had an injury spell, got another trial, wasn't able to sign Steelers. Interesting, though, there is a Steelers connection when it comes to both these players. Then you got a versatile player, if you will, for the Battlehawks. Offensive line and defensive line, Mike Panatsky, very hard name. 6'3", 293, Michigan State.
Okay.
Was a defensive tackle for an all Big Ten honorable mention. 2020 NFL Draft, undrafted, played with the Panthers for 2 years. Was on. Then they had him switch to offensive guard within there. Was on the practice, got released, but was trying now before the final week of the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the thing that was most interesting when I found out about that trial with the Steelers, he didn't get signed. There was someone else that was there, but he didn't get signed either. And I'm interested if he will either join the XFL or USFL here, and you're going to know who this player is by the guy's last name. This guy is a tight end, Thaddeus Moss.
Oh, Randy Moss's son from LSU.
Yes. He has not signed a futures contract, as I know that. And the question is, it's going to be interesting because Randy, does he still work for Fox, or is he working?
No, I mean, he still was at ESPN last time I checked, correct?
So it's going to be interesting. That's a player I'm looking interested in if he does go to the XFL or USFL, or he might still try, because with his name, he should probably still get a look from some NFL teams, though. You would think a tight end from LSU that got a ring that would get some more looks. So that's going to be kind of interesting. Now, also too with the Battlehawks with the social media, right now they're showing some training camps. Last week was more like learning the playbook, get condition stuff. Now they're doing the padded practice and the stuff, and. Of course, let me double check here. One thing we mentioned here last week, college pro football Hall of Famer Brian Westbrook, of course, is director of player engagement. He was visiting down training camp, and he's being promoted and stuff, so we'll probably see more of him once the season goes on. Then we got two things that happened with partnerships. One that was announced a few days ago, and one just today.
Okay.
First is with Riser here. By the way, good job from Stefan of XFL News, because this is the article that even Riser put in there that's linked on their social media and stuff. Here, Riser Mindset selected official mindset testing partner of the XFL. The XFL today, this was on, strangely, Friday the 13th.
Weirdly enough.
Okay, the XFL today announced it has selected Riser Mindset as its official mindset testing partner. Riser reporting and suite of mindset tools will help the XFL prioritize both the mental performance and mental well-being of players, while also helping coaches better understand their athletes to optimize training and reach peak performance. And mental health is very important, especially what happened to a Bills player we saw a few weeks ago, Damar Hamlin.
Yes, definitely.
So, especially after the accident, you saw the reaction to both those players here. As part of this agreement, all XFL players will take Raw Mindset proprietary Troutwin Athletic Profile TAP and Athletic Mindset so that measures the traits important to achieving athletic success. Upon tap completion, players receive for point to analyze their mental traits, personalized sports psychologist guidance and development, plan to help them reach their full potential, and coaches receive reporting that provides tips, techniques, and guidance on how to most effectively coach each player based upon their unique mindset. The TAP was periodically validated by the U.S. Navy SEALs and has been in use continually in the NFL since 1984 to 18 to scanning prospective players' mental makeup. I am thrilled to work with Riser to gain the best understanding of each of our players and what their path to success looks like. Holistic player development, a cornerstone of our league, means giving the mental aspect of the game the attention it deserves, enhancing the tools and guidelines we use to elevate our players. Riser is an important partner in helping us accomplish our player development goals for both the football operations and health and safety teams. Said that was, of course, by Doug Whaley, XFL Senior Vice President President Personnel, and by the co-founder Riser. I am ecstatic about this partnership with the XFL. In my 4 decades of working with teams in more than 10 pro leagues, it is the first time a league has prioritized player well-being above all else. I am not shocked.
Right.
I look forward to helping the players and coaches make full use of our mindset system to their betterment. We'll do that one there. Then the other partnership that was just announced today. Here. Announced partnership with Catapult Sports, the global performance technology leader in elite sports. XFL today announced a partnership with Catapult Sports, the global leader in sports technology solutions for professional athletes and teams. The XFL will utilize Catapult's groundbreaking wearable technology equipped with football-specific algorithms to capture player-specific data that measures athlete load to keep players on the field and performing their best while promoting health and safety throughout the league. My guess is injury, stamina, and all that.
Yeah, and I imagine when it comes to wearable technology, a lot of that is probably going to be in relation to the helmets that they wear.
Well, yeah, it depends. Across the league's 18 coaches and staff will rely on Catapult solutions, including Vector, Thunder, and Scout, to make more informed decisions about players than ever before. The new league-wide agreement gives the XFL access to cutting-edge technology to keep players healthy and performing at the best for fans. As a leading athlete monitoring system in sports, the Vector SAAS technology provides teams with powerful athlete performance data, including speed, acceleration, and max velocity, allowing staff to make objective decisions about athletes, maximize their performance, and avoid dangerous injuries. In addition, coaches will be able to review game film, opponent strategies, and practice footage using Thunder. Catapult's video analysis solution for American Football Scout is the industry's most complete and in-depth library of player and team recruiting content. So that's technology. It's going to get scary. I'm sorry.
Well, and I mean, you do have to give the XFL some credit for not only wanting to look at all of the available options they have to enhance player safety, player performance, but also, give their coaches, who a lot of these guys are first-time coaches in some capacity, give them an opportunity to not only be able to perform at their best, but then also put their players in the best possible situation.
Yes, and also the XFL hire. Forgive me, because her name is very hard to say. Zita Najena Hagen was hired as assistant director of player rehabilitation. That's supposed to help with health and all sorts of that with the players as well. So their XFLs keep hiring and stuff. And one big thing that happened last week was, of course, because we know that the XFL is on the Disney thing of networks, and one big thing was, of course, announcing who is commentating these games, and most of them, of course, it's from the College Game Day crew and all that.
Of course.
So first you get, then I have to double check here because it's not the exact order that it is up here. Though, here we go. It's going to buy 4 here. So first you got Sam Acho, Matt Berry, Tiffany Blackman, and Stormy. It's hard for me to pronounce Stormy's last name. Tony. So then, of course, you also have Cole Cubitt, Harry Douglas, Ian Fitzsimmons, and Lo Galindo. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, you got Joey Galloway, legendary Joey Galloway, yes, Katie George, Tom Hart, and Eric Manlennon. I believe Greg McElroy was part of the XFL 2020. Then you got Tom Lingbaugh, Taylor McGregor, and John Striffen. So what do you think of the commentating crews here we got?
Well, I think for the most part, they're all voices that we've heard in some way, shape, or form. Like you said, mostly college football, but in some football-related capacity. I think they got some good teams, man. They got some good color guys. Obviously, you got Greg McElroy, very familiar not only with his playing days at Alabama, but also saw some NFL run. Same thing for Harry Douglas, been around the league as an NFL wide receiver before. Joey Galloway, college legend, obviously had a long pro career as well. And then Sam Acho, same thing, man. You got a lot of good experience in terms of guys that have been on a number of different type of football fields. And you also have your non-color analysts that have, again, been around the college game and seen a number of different teams and schemes before. So I think they did a good job in composing these teams and also still giving some lesser-known analysts an opportunity to be able to get their name out there through, by way of the XFL. So I definitely think they did a good job in putting these teams together.
Yes, and one thing, too, I don't know, doesn't it seem like the college commentators seem to be better than the pro ones for some reason?
I mean, for the most part, and I think the problem specifically for ESPN, obviously they've kind of solved that problem now, getting Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. I don't think that their commentators before now gave you the feeling that the game that you were watching was as intense as it probably should have been portrayed. And you just also have, some personalities and some styles that don't always mix the best. So I do think, for at least, again, from what we've seen so far and, from some of the games that we've been able to see with some of these names calling them, I think they've done a good job in trying to assemble, again, not only the right types of experience from a color standpoint, but also folks that know how to give you the right emphasis that you need at the right time when it comes to calling the game overall.
Yeah, so that's one thing we have with XFL news here. Of course, one thing that was interesting, I wanted to go through the XFL QB rooms at the moment. So, Battlehawks first, AJ McCarron, Ryan Willis, and Nick Torino. It's going to be between AJ and Ryan.
Yeah, I would think that they lean towards Ryan, but then again, you may have that coaching staff that will prefer more of a veteran like AJ McCarron, but we'll obviously see how that training camp battle turns out.
Then Renegades, Kevin Anderson, Drew Plitt, or Kyle Sloter. It's probably going to be Kyle Sloter.
Yeah, probably.
Because they also drafted one of his weapons when he was in the USFL as well, so it's going to be obvious. Defenders, this is an interesting one. You got Eric Dungey, you got Derek King, then now they just added Jordan Tiamu.
I guess if he can get up to speed, it probably would be Tiamu, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't underestimate Derek King to be.
I like Derek King, but I think from a size standpoint, Tiamu might be a little bit more ideal. But again, it depends on how they see that offense running for DC.
Well, here's one thing too I have to add. Now that they're the Memphis Showboats, but formerly the Tampa Bay Bandits, Jordan Tiamu was the starter for them in the USFL. Jordan do use his legs like he did in St. Louis.
Right.
The one problem Jordan has, not his arm strength, his accuracy was a problem.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting how they go with the defenders. Now, Houston, Caleb Ellerby, Cole McDonald, or Brandon Silvers. It's either
I would probably say Brandon Silvers, though, right?
It's going to be either him or Cole McDonald.
Yeah, granted, transparently, I haven't seen a whole lot of Cole McDonald, but at least from what I saw from Brandon Silvers, he would strike me as a
Cole
starter.
McDonald has that famous pipeline with Hawaii quarterbacks, and also he does have experience with the Titans. So
I mean, if you let him throw it 50 times for 500 yards a game, he might show out for you.
Orlando Guardians: Quentin Dormady, DeAndre Francois, or Mitch Kidd. DeAndre.
Yeah, DeAndre, that's his job to lose, I would think.
Brahmas, they have 4 currently. Jack Cohen, Javon Pass, Anthony Russo, and Reed Sinnett.
That's a tough, because I don't know how to feel about them having 4 quarterbacks in the quarterback room. That seems to me that they don't know who they really want to
Especially since Brahmas is rumored to be a running team for some reason.
Yeah, so you probably gonna have more of a game manager back there.
So my guess would be either Anthony Russo or Jawan Pass. That's me, but
I guess I would lean Jawan Pass. But I think that was gonna be tough to call. Again, to me, them having 4 quarterbacks as opposed to 2 or 3 sounds like they are a little bit confused themselves in terms of who they are leaning toward.
Then you got the Sea Dragons. They had 2, but now 3. Ben DiNucci, former Cowboys quarterback. Brian Lewick, and then returning and didn't get a futures there with a Detroit Lions, Steven Montez.
It probably would be between DiNucci and Montez, and I would probably lean DiNucci only because we actually have some real NFL tape on him. Granted, Montez was pretty good in college, but I think you would probably prefer a little bit of that pro experience. And again, Ben DiNucci didn't seem like a terrible quarterback when we saw him. But definitely, I guess that would probably be my lean. I wouldn't rule Steven Montez out, though.
Then finally, Vegas Vipers. I don't know. Here's one thing both USFL and XFL have a problem with is that updating their rosters on their sites. Though XFL's on their own, but for USFL, it's more worse in my opinion because it's not their own site. It's Fox Sports, and you would think I don't know. Vegas Viper only has 2. Is between Jalen McClendon or Luis Perez.
Probably McClendon, right? Maybe.
I don't know. Perez has that. Has a very good track record, to be quite frank.
I was gonna say, because remind me, did they draft Ruiz, or I'm sorry, not draft, but
they drafted both of them. They got them both, allocated both of them.
Well, I remember the allocation, but I guess they were allocated together. There wasn't any particular order, so that one's gonna be a little bit tough. Not as cut and dry as some of those other decisions, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. So now we'll go to that's it for the XFL, but there'll be some XFL hosts before we switch back to NFL. Now to the USFL. First, we're going to start what was the biggest surprise, not really to me, but more of the timing I have a problem with. So people know that I have a little disdain, and a few other USFL fans have disdain for Kirby Wilson.
Yep.
So, actually, no, not that one yet. Last week, there was a tweet that came, but for some reason it was deleted, but people screenshotted, including me. Reported by Eric D. Williams, USFL announces longtime former NFL D coordinator and UW product, Ray Horton takes over as head coach for the Pittsburgh Maulers. Ray's son, Jaron Horton, remains DC for a second season. Former Maulers head coach Kirby Wilson resigned last week for personal reasons. So here's the thing. It's not that I'm not happy about it. I just have a problem with the timing because we're about 90 days from the USFL season. And, this should have happened weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or months. It's and here's the thing. It's just why now? That's the problem. And also, I have to go with let me get my notes about the USFL coaching here. I had a notes for that here. Where was that? Because don't you think it's kind of... Yeah, here we go. USFL, after Season 1, had 2 head coaching resign. 10 came to the XFL. If you want to example, the offensive line for the Battlehawks came from the Tampa Bay Bandits. 2 went to the to the United Football League. I have to stop here. Those are the ones I question the most to the United Football League because that is the one that is basically the National Gridiron League and with a little bit of fraud coat of paint.
Yep.
One is supposed to be a head coach of the Oklahoma City Wranglers, and me and another fellow person that I've mentioned here, Zach Kellerman. They're supposed to have. That's the team that they're supposed to be playing in a stadium in Cahokia with the St. Louis Stampede. That league that I mentioned here that has a few problems because they originally were supposed to be an indoor arena league here a few years ago, play at the Family Arena in St. Charles, and for some reason that didn't happen, and they let a lot of people not getting paid and also angry. Then they try to do a hub in somewhere near Indianapolis was it last summer? I think it was last summer or the summer before that. And the person that was in charge got on a video and fought one of the players. Joe McClendon, if I remember his name correctly.
Yeah, not ideal.
So, yeah, there's some things like he might have got some fraud with some PP loans or something like that, because people are like wondering, where is this money coming from?
Yeah, he probably going to go to the PP police real soon.
And then the Michigan Panthers defensive coordinator left and went to take the same job for the Coastal Carolina College. So it's kind of interesting the swing. There's some new coaches here, but let's get back to the one who replaced him because honestly, it's a lot better. Similar with Pittsburgh ties, and that is, of course, now for his first time head coaching gig, Ray Horton. Got 3 Super Bowl rings, 1 as a player with the Cowboys and 2 as an assistant with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is actually who they should have hired in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, there's probably some argument that Ray should have been getting a little bit more of a head coaching look on the NFL side rather than having to go and be a coach in the USFL, but definitely good for him to get that opportunity. USFL, though, man, I got some questions about how this is all operating. Man, I feel like a lot of, obviously we see the late coaching switch. It seems like a lot of the folks that have had experience, whether it be coaches or players, a lot of them that have had experience in both the XFL and USFL, when given the opportunity to choose between the two, choose the XFL. Not sure how good that is for the USFL long term.
And also, here's the thing, too. They have yet to announce they already announced 2 hubs. They haven't announced the other 2 hubs yet that we've discussed that's been rumored. So, like I said, we're 90 days. And there was something that was on a USFL news thing, and he's usually pretty reliable. Supposedly, training camp's supposed to start March 13th. It's a week earlier than usual. And trust me, they had a way too short of a training camp, and also their roster limit was too short.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, too. They're supposed to have a draft here soon because people that follow the USFL season, there was basically what I call an actual tank bowl game that had meaning between the Michigan Panthers and Pittsburgh Maulers. Instead of the loser of the final game, because that somehow went to the final game, with between the Pittsburgh Maulers and Michigan Panthers, and instead of losing in the first pick, the winner did. Yeah, the Moose Johnson came on a video thing and saying, "This is what we're going to do with this unique situation." I don't know if that was more for PR or something, but hey, it's their choice. So I don't know, isn't it kind of, because the question too, when is the draft? Because here's the thing too, because a few months ago, I can't remember, it was Skip Holtz of the Birmingham Stallions or Bart Aldrich I can't remember, he's either the head coach of the Philadelphia Stars and New Jersey Generals. Both of them are, either one of them is in the North Division. Supposedly, they were supposed to have OTAs last October in the home markets. That never came to fruition, and neither the league or anyone else tried to correct on that. So I don't know if that was just an idea floating around or something. Let me be clear, I'm not being negative. This was said publicly. So I don't know what happened there. So now, like I said, they're supposed to have a draft sometime soon. When is it going to happen?
Again, not
how many rounds is it? I'm thinking as more of a curiosity thing because, like I said, 90 days. And, the XFL announced the draft, months in advance.
Yeah. Like I said, I got some questions about how the USFL operates.
Speaking, because here's the thing. the USFL has been doing signings, trades, but what about draft picks here? Because if you don't have a draft and you had that game, what was the purpose of that? What was the purpose?
Yeah.
So here we go. Let's see here. Excuse me. There was a trade for the Memphis Showboats. Got cornerback Josh Josh Horace, and Birmingham got wide receiver Austin Walk from UAB. So they're getting some more local talent, especially because they are playing at UAB Stadium.
Right.
Well, the newer one, they need to knock down the other one. Ugh. So here's another thing too. So the Birmingham Sounds also signed cornerback Donnie Levers Jr., 6 foot 190, Tulane NFL Draft 2019, 7th round pick 2021. Browns release was on the practice squad for the Browns, Bengals, and then Broncos and IR, and now he's with the Birmingham Stallions. They re-signed offensive lineman Marquise Tucker from Southern Utah. They signed running back Zaquan White, 6'1", 215, South Carolina. Recent NFL draft, undrafted with the Dolphins, was on their practice squad, released on October 17th. Houston Gamblers re-signed very well-received wide receiver JoJo Ward from Hawaii. Also, another thing too, the Maulers, because of the hire of Ray Horton, they were able to sign all USFL safety Bryce Torden and also local player safety Trey Tarpey. So, and then once again, here's another thing too. They also signed quarterback James Morgan from FIU Bowling Green, was signed on the Arizona Cardinals on their practice squad, and was with the USFL, but after was on the season and did not get a futures deal, so he's back on there. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Then let's see here. Here we go. Memphis Showboats running backs Alex Collins, 5'10", Arkansas, was one of the running backs the SC to get 3 seasons over 1,000 yards. Joined Darren McFadden and Herschel Walker. 2016 round 5 pick 117, Seattle with the Seahawks for a few years, got suspended for 18 months for marijuana and gun possession in 2019. No problem with the marijuana, but the gun is the problem.
Yeah.
Then went back with the Seahawks and now with the Memphis Showboats, so have a pretty good run game with him. New Jersey Generals signed quarterback Amon Marshall, 6'1", 210, USC, All Pac-12, 2019 NFL Draft, 4th round pick. Ravens from 19 to 21, suffered a torn ACL, put on IR, waived on July 23rd, 2022. And now with the Generals, and they also re-signed cornerback Trey Elston of Ole Miss and offensive tackle Terry Poole, San Diego State. Now the Breakers, they signed, this is an interesting player here, signed Davis Cheeks, 6'3", 217, so Glass has some competition here for the Breakers QB spot.
Yeah.
All-CAA Offensive Rookie of the Year in 17, NFL Draft 2022, undrafted, was signed by the Panthers, was released, was part of the NFL Alumni Academy that the XFL was able to fix their partnership with them. So, and then he was signed to an XFL contract, but didn't get drafted or allocated either. Then resigned with the Panthers after that, didn't get a futures deal, and now is with the Breakers.
There we go. Found a new home.
Then re-signed Reggie Davis. No, not re-signed. I apologize. Wide receiver Reggie Davis, 5'11", 185, Georgia, NFL Draft 2017. Undrafted, signed to the Falcons. Released, was with the Browns. Then with the Falcons practice squad, Eagles practice squad, Cowboys practice squad, Bears practice squad, back to the Cowboys practice squad. It seems how they go this way, that way, this way, that way. And, yeah, then the Philadelphia Stars, final one, linebacker Joey Alfier, 6'3", 220, Stanford, NFL Draft 2019, undrafted, signed with the Eagles and released and was with the Giants, the Niners, the Spring League Blues in 2021. Then they also released Tony Fair, Auburn, and then they re-signed Scotty Brown, but strangely he was an XFL supplemental draft pick for the Brahmas 2 weeks ago. So
Looks like
Brahmas haven't been having a big problem with that lately.
I was gonna say Scully sounds like he got a decision to make there.
Yeah, so, and then, of course, for the Michigan Panthers, re-signed Reggie Corbin. That was a big one. Then, of course, here's interesting. This is the first former first-round pick of any of the alternative leagues that I've seen for the USFL sign. 2016, long ago.
Yep.
Round 1 pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Ole Miss defensive tackle, all SEC first, and also second-team All-American. Was with, like I said, the Cardinals 16-18. He was a late round, like 29, so I don't know, would you technically call him a bust?
I mean, probably not. You know, late round picks don't necessarily get called busts because not many of them turn out to make it, you know, into long careers anyway. But, you know, I guess it's everybody's title their own.
Yeah, then finally, Generals signed tight end Charles Jones, 6'4", from Tulane, 2019 NFL Draft. Was with the Jaguars in 19, and the Bills practice squad and Steelers practice squad last in 2021. Don't know what he did for 2022, though. Then finally, resigned wide receiver Chris Platt Jr. from Baylor. Interesting, though, I wanted to know because both the USFL and XFL are going for the same players, especially for this upcoming draft class. Most recently, the College Gridiron Showcase All-Star Game. I think you probably heard of that one, have you? So in this game here, you had 145-plus scouts, all 32 teams, all CFL teams. Then you have XFL and USFL scouts there. 300-plus players in attendance from all over the country and international. Once again, for example, we have that punter from Australia. Yeah. So a thing, too, here is about this game. This is the first time it's an all-female ref crew.
Nice, okay.
So, yeah.
Like the inclusion.
And then also, I am not surprised this, I am, and me, and then there's Rodney, part of the In the Zone Network with us that are WWE fans, and WWE was there as well because now they're going scouting college athletes.
Yeah.
For example, there's one that's in NXT named Odyssey Jones who was a former god for Syracuse Orange.
There you go.
And I'll give you an example here. For now, one of the top champions, Roman Reigns, he actually played college and then also played in the CFL. So, yeah.
I mean, we've seen The Rock take that route as well. Well, from playing, you know, college football.
And then on the women's side, you have her ring name is Tiffany Stratton, but she was part of the United States Gymnastics team. From what I recall, she wasn't part of that one scandal that happened a few years ago at Michigan State, so that was good. So then I kind of found it was interesting because there's a lot of all-star games still yet to be played. You still got the RISA Senior Bowl. You have the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. Then you got the Podium All-Star Bowl, which is all-stars from the top small schools.
Yep.
And then you got I never knew what the name was for the FCS All-Star. It's the Trillion Tropical Bowl.
Okay.
And also, when I follow them, they follow back. So, hey, thanks for that.
Yeah, hey, look, we like to follow back, man. We
so
like that.
now that does with Ultra. Now we go with the NFL here. What is the first game we're previewing?
In order of how they will air this weekend, we will get 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. First game of the slate, 3:30 p.m. Central Time here on Saturday on NBC. You got the Jaguars at the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
That's just weird. An NBC game is in the day because they're usually in prime
I'm
time.
glitchy Wi-Fi.
Well, and I think for NBC, it sounds like, because I remember, I don't think it was last year, but maybe one of the years before, for whatever reason, it's sticking with me, that was a 49ers-Eagles playoff game, and I don't even know if they matched up recently, but I think it was during that 49ers Super Bowl run in 2020. I think that they've had games like this before, but, you know, for whatever reason, NBC's just trying to get in where they fit in, Fox and CBS kind of being the main partners there. But
reminder to ABC, that was their final NFL game this season, and they did do some XFL commercials as well. So.
Yes, definitely.
So, and also with the Super Bowl being on Fox, do not be surprised, especially last year on NBC, there was some USFL commercials, so do not be surprised about that.
Yeah. So you got Jaguars Chiefs on Saturday. You know, Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites in this one. Probably, you know, fair to look at this game and think this is going to be an easy win for the Chiefs. We saw these teams play during the regular season. I believe the Chiefs won that game 27-17. Of course, we'll have covered that 8.5. You've got Trevor Lawrence now going on his first road playoff game after the big comeback against the Chargers. Great story. Been a great season for the Jaguars. I think the Bucs stops here, though.
I know, but wouldn't it be interesting if somehow the Jaguars beat the Chiefs? I'm just saying, as an interesting storyline, if you will.
It would be an interesting storyline, but what I will say is that it would probably make for a much worse AFC Championship game. Because I would much rather see the Chiefs versus either the Bengals or Bills as opposed to, again, great story, but the Jaguars in the AFC Championship game against the Bengals or Bills where there's probably some blowout potential there. Again, now we would be talking about they were to take down the Chiefs, so maybe not. But at the same time, that still is a possible outcome. I'm going to ride with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, man. I think having that game at home, knowing that at worst, you get a neutral site game for the AFC Championship.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Again, for those of y'all that did not see it, due to Bengals and Bills having to cancel game on December 26th, you will now see a potential Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game played in Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. A little bit of an odd sight to me to choose an NFC stadium for the AFC Championship game, but there we have it. So if, of course, the two winning teams in the AFC this weekend happen to be the Chiefs and Bills, that will be the site of your AFC Championship game. Otherwise, the Chiefs win and the Bengals win, you will see that game in Kansas City. And then, of course, if we do get that Jaguars upset, they will travel to either Buffalo or Cincinnati, whoever wins the game.
I'm actually hoping for the neutral game, so that way it's going to be interesting, especially with a week in advance. How the Georgia Dome, is that what it's called now, or what?
Mercedes-Benz Dome, yeah. Not the Superdome like down in Louisiana, but Mercedes-Benz Dome nonetheless.
Strangely, the Jaguar-Chiefs game is the lowest paying for a ticket game because it's $143 is the lowest ticket price.
Well, I could see that. KC not necessarily the same area from a football standpoint that Philadelphia, Buffalo, and San Francisco might be, but I do think that it's going to be hard for Jacksonville to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. We've seen it done before, teams on the road, but I don't necessarily know that Jacksonville is the team. Again, while it would be a great story, great upset, I'm not sure that they're the team to be able to pull that off.
Also, shout out for our YouTube commenter, Joy Popoloa here. Apparently, he has a son's alma mater with the Spartans. I don't know if it's Hazelwood East or Michigan State.
Hey, look.
Under Gucci Wi-Fi.
Of course, definitely would prefer for it to be Hazelwood East. But if it's Michigan State, shout out to Michigan State. We appreciate the love.
Yeah, so she, I think this is also Posh, someone that I met on Twitter here. Big Cleveland Browns fan. The good ones.
Okay.
The good ones.
Look, we'll spare you some shenanigans that go on with some of those Cleveland Browns fans.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I got the Chiefs, and I'll even go as far as taking the 8.5 points.
Yeah, I'll go with the Chiefs as much as it pains me.
Yeah.
Next,
we'd love to have a team in St. Louis, but unfortunately, we got to settle for one in Kansas City.
Then next one we got, of course, an NFC divisional matchup for third time: New York Giants at the Eagles.
I imagine this is probably going to be between this game and the game that we'll talk about next with the Bengals and Bills. Probably going to be the game that people talk themselves into an upset on.
I do see that.
Now, granted, that final game of the season, a lot of people weren't watching it. The Giants actually played the Eagles a lot closer than what people probably would think, considering they had like their third string guys in. I just think Brian Daboll's going to have that team ready. I don't know if I'm ready to go as far as picking the Giants to win the game. I do see, though, that Philadelphia is favored by 7.5 points. I would be all over the Giants in the 7.5. Only because, you lose by a touchdown, you can still cover your bet. But I think the Giants are going to be able to keep it close. I feel like the Eagles probably come out on top when it's all said and done, but I think there is the Giants have definitely shown us now And again, it's going to be a little bit tougher against that Eagles defense and a divisional opponent. But they've now shown us that they have the ability to create a game plan for just about anybody. Does it work against Philly? I don't know, but they got a shot. I definitely think they got a shot.
And let's be clear, the last 2 times the New York Giants won the Super Bowl, they weren't the division champion. They were a wild card, low seed team.
That is a fact, yes.
So they have a history being the underdog and winning.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and they've gone into some hostile environments in those Super Bowl runs.
And there's no hostile environment when it comes to a sports town like Philadelphia.
Look, hey, those Philly fans are going to be just absolutely on fire. Of course, they're coming off of a Philadelphia Phillies run in baseball, not so much of a basketball run with the 76ers, but of course, they are going to be, rocking in the bank, as they call it, Citizens Bank Field there in Philly. But I think Philly wins the game. I just think it's a much closer game than that 7.5 point spread might indicate.
And also, the lowest ticket for this game, about $249.
Doesn't surprise me for it to be Philadelphia. Doesn't surprise me at all. I imagine there's a lot of those Philadelphia fans that are not looking to sell their tickets at all unless they get blown away by a price. So that probably contributes a little bit to that.
Yeah, these were the fans that booed Santa all those years ago.
I mean, you get it how you live.
And that
Philly.
game is on Fox.
Yeah, 7:15 on Saturday on Fox.
Next, of course, we got the Bengals and the Bills.
Man,
Last year's AFC champions against what's supposed to be at least the first or either the contender to win it.
This is probably
this should be an offensive game.
Should be an offensive game, and I don't know if they planned it this way, but I would go out on a limb and say that the 2 best games of the weekend will probably be the 2 Sunday games. This game and the Cowboys 49ers game that is going to come after it. Obviously, this is the game in which DeMar Hamlin suffered his cardiac arrest injury here a few weeks back. Probably going to be a lot of emotion in that stadium. The Bills are the favorites. I'll be about 4.5 points at home. I think the Bengals can go into Buffalo and win, though. I think they can go in and win. And, I mean, again, the game got cut a lot shorter than what we would have wanted to see, a few weeks ago on Monday Night Football. But they did take the lead early in that game, and their offense was moving pretty well doing it. The Bills, I'm just concerned with what I've seen defensively from them, especially in last weekend's playoff game against the Dolphins. I'm not ready to just go ahead and say they definitely going to get past the Bengals when they gave up 31 points to Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins. Just tough one to call, but I think I might have to go Bengals on that one.
This would be a coin flip for me, and surprisingly, the lowest ticket for this game is $174.
A little bit surprising. I think a lot of the folks that got tickets to that game, and nobody's looking to really resell that. I think the atmosphere in Buffalo is going to be crazy though on Sunday afternoon, man.
Yeah.
We're probably going to get Jim Nance and Tony Romo on that game. Definitely going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. From what I've seen lately, turnovers with the Bills, defense not, playing well. They obviously miss Von Miller right now as far as having a pass rush. And granted, the Bengals also didn't play that great either. But I think if I have to pick a winner, I'm gonna go with the Bengals in a slight upset.
Now we go before we preview the next game. I need to play this.
Oh, yeah. Good old school football feeling, right?
Because, ladies and gentlemen, the next preview game is
probably
the one rivalry when it's not in division in NFL football. This was a rivalry that, of course, set forth before the merger.
I mean,
you got the Dallas Cowboys going to now Santa Clara to face the 49ers. Think of all the games that have to go with between these two teams.
Well, I mean, just think about the entire 1990s where basically whoever won this game was going to be a Super Bowl champion. And, man, this...
And just look at the coach names here. Tom Landry, Bill Walsh, Jimmy Johnson, George Seifert.
You got
the players,
legends,
Joe
man.
Montana, Jerry Rice.
Michael Irvin.
Roger Staubach, Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, man. You got legends on both sides of this, both coaches and players. You got great players on both sides of this game right now. Obviously, both of these defenses are lights out. Micah Parsons flying around on one side of the football with, guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs on the same side of the football there for the Cowboys. You've got Fred Warner. You got Nick Bosa flying around on that defense for the 49ers. Going to be a hell of a game. Going to be a defensive struggle, I believe, at least, at first. It's hard for me to pick against the 49ers, though, man. Even with Brock Purdy, even with, Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback, hard for me to pick against the 49ers right now, especially being at home. And they always say be a little bit, concerned about the team that looks a little too good the week before going into another big game. I didn't expect the Cowboys to look the way they looked last night. It's going to be a much different game against the 49ers. Now, granted, they continue to win these games on the road, but my gut is telling me 49ers and Eagles in the NFC Championship game, Chiefs and Bengals in the AFC Championship.
Let me give you a possibility that could happen that will blow everything up. Say the Giants beat the Eagles, which is possible.
Very possible. Very possible.
And somehow the Dallas Cowboys beat the Niners.
Got all NFC East.
But here's the thing. Those are two wild card teams.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing. If that happens, the Cowboys would host the NFC Championship because they're the higher seed.
And that would be nuts if you got an NFC Championship game in Dallas. Yeah. Look, I'm not a believer. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm not typically a believer in them being able to pull off these big wins. I have said numerous times, though, this year, if there was going to be a year for them to finally get over the hump and kind of knock off
fitness starts from
all
the
of
inside.
that, choking, whatever you want to call it, this might be the year, man. And, again, if they beat the 49ers on Sunday, I'm going to feel a lot better about that. But the 49ers, man, the way they looked against Seattle in that playoff game on Wild Card Weekend, it's hard for me to pick against that team.
I will, even though I said the Bengals-Bills be the more offensive game, to me the game of this playoff week is Niners and Cowboys.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would almost, I'm not gonna do it. I would almost go out on a limb and say though, and I'll leave y'all with this: Cowboys 49ers. The winner of that game is probably going to be the team in the Super Bowl in the NFC.
Yeah, I would say that, but once again, Giants have history being the low seed.
Taking teams out. So it's going to be very, very interesting divisional playoff weekend. And, of course, we're going to come back next Tuesday right here, same time, same place, and give you all of same wonderful week recap that we do week after week. And then we're going to be counting down to championship weekend on the both the AFC and NFC side, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more XFL and USFL news to bring you.
Oh, yeah, the XFL is about to start soon here in a month. Of course, one thing that we will not be covering is the Pro Bowl games.
Oh, yeah. Not dealing with the Pro Bowl, especially now they're going to flag football. They don't even want to be there half the time. So
no, but they'll take the trip to Vegas and also the paycheck.
Oh, yeah, definitely like those bonuses.
Oh, that reminds me, just one quick thing here. There was a voted All-Pro first team by the players here. Let me just announce this real quick that I saw. This is the players' vote for the All-Pro team.
Yep.
Quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Running back, Josh Jacobs. Fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. Tight end, Travis Kelce. Left tackle, Trent Williams. Left guard, Joe Bettino. Center, Jason Kelce. Right guard, Zach Martin. Right tackle, Lane Johnson. Edge rusher, Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett. Interior D lineman, Chris Jones and Aaron Donald. Nose tackle, Dexter Lawrence. Off-ball linebacker, Fred Warner and Raquan Smith. Cornerback, Pat Surtain II and Darius Slay. Free safety, Benitsky Fitzpatrick. Strong safety, Derwin James Jr. Kick return, Cordell Patterson. I'm surprised by punt return, Cavante Turpin. Core teamer, whatever that means. I guess no, I don't know what that means. Jeremy Reeves and Justin Hardy. Kicker, Jason Myers. punter Tommy Townsend, and long snapper Morgan Cox.
There we go. So voted on by their peers. You have your All-Pro team. A lot of those names coming as no surprise. Do got to give a shout out to Patrick Surtain II, rookie corner, coming in getting that All-Pro love from his fellow NFL brethren. Yes, fellow NFL family members there. So, of course, it's been another wonderful week here on That's Football, as we do every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here on the My City, My Music YouTube channel. Again, brought to you by the In the Zone Network. We're St. Louis, Cafe Piazza, Worldberg Sanctuary. Come join us every Tuesday. Until next week, that's football.